For decades, we've known Nightwing as a hero born from Gotham's dark alleys, forever tied to the shadow of the Bat. But what if the real story behind his name isn't from Earth at all? Long before Dick Grayson ever put on the mask, the name Nightwing was a legend whispered on a doomed planet. This is the secret Kryptonian myth that inspired one of DC's greatest heroes. It's a story about being an outcast, fighting from the shadows, and forging an identity that would echo across the stars from the last son of Krypton to the first son of the Bat. To understand how Nightwing was born, we have to go back to the moment Robin died. For years, Dick Grayson was the boy wonder, that vibrant splash of color against Gotham's grim backdrop. He was Batman's partner, his student. But a student can't stay a student forever. As Dick grew into a man, the bright yellow cape started to feel less like a part of him and more like a cage. He was leading the Teen Titans, a hero in his own right who commanded respect from his peers. And yet back in Gotham, he was still just the sidekick. The shadow of the Bat is a long one. For all the good he did, Dick felt trapped. Every move he made was compared to Batman's. Every win was seen as just a product of Batman's training. The Robin identity, once a badge of honor, had become a painful reminder that he wasn't his own man. He was just an extension of Batman, so the big question began to haunt him. Who was he, if not Robin? And more importantly, who could he be if he dared to walk away? The final break wasn't one big explosion, but a series of fractures that finally shattered the dynamic duo. In the comics after Crisis on Infinite Earths, the moment that changed everything was shockingly violent. During a fight with the Joker, Dick Grayson was shot. For Batman, who had already lost Dick's parents and sworn to protect him, this was his greatest fear coming true. In Batman number 408, a distraught Bruce Wayne makes the call. Dick's time as Robin is over. He fires him. Not out of anger, but out of a desperate, twisted attempt to keep him safe. But it wasn't just about the bullet. Tensions had been growing for years. Dick was spending more time with the Teen Titans, finding his footing as a leader far away from Gotham. Before the Crisis storyline, the comics showed a more gradual split, with Dick heading off to college in Batman number 217. He didn't leave because of a fight. It was just time to leave the nest. No matter which version you read, the reason is the same. Dick had outgrown the role. Whether he was fired or chose to leave, he was finally untethered. He was no longer Robin, but he wasn't anyone else yet. He was a hero without a name, searching for a symbol that was completely his. This painful break set him on a new path, and he needed advice not from a father figure, but from a friend. For that, he went to the one person who truly understood the weight of being a symbol, Superman. This is where the story takes a turn no one expected. In the celebrated Nightwing Year 1 storyline, a lost and aimless Dick Grayson makes his way to Metropolis. He doesn't go to Bruce, who's too wrapped up in his own fear and their shared history. He goes to Clark Kent. He seeks out the one hero who balances a public life and a secret identity while still being a symbol of pure optimism. He needed a fresh perspective, one forged in sunlight, not shadow. The conversation they have is one of the most important moments in Dick's entire life. Clark doesn't give him easy answers or tell him what to do. He just listens. He sees a young man wrestling with the same questions of identity and purpose that he once did. Superman gets what it's like to carry a legacy while trying to build something new. He knew Dick didn't need a new boss. He needed inspiration. So, Clark tells him a story, takes Dick to the Fortress of Solitude, a place filled with Kryptonian history, and there, surrounded by the relics of a dead world. He shares a forgotten legend, not about a god or a king, but about a hero who was cast out, forgotten, but chose to fight for people from the darkness. He tells Dick the ancient Kryptonian legend of Nightwing. As Superman tells the story, we learn about a man from Krypton's distant past who was cast out from his family, becoming a pariah. Instead of accepting his fate, he decided to protect the helpless from the shadows. He became a vigilante, a symbol for the forgotten, and he took on the name of a native Kryptonian bird. He became Nightwing. This hero wasn't alone. The legend says he had a partner, Flamebird. Together, Nightwing and Flamebird were two halves of a whole, mythological figures bound by loyalty and a shared purpose. Their story was about redemption and proving your own worth, even when the world has written you off. Now, it's worth pointing out that this epic legend wasn't always the origin. In the older, pre-Crisis comics, the story was simpler. During an adventure in the bottled city of Kandor, a depowered Superman and Jimmy Olsen took on the personas of Nightwing and Flamebird themselves. Inspired by Batman and Robin, Dick Grayson later heard about their adventure and adopted the name as a tribute. The version with the ancient Kryptonian outcast was introduced later to give Dick's new identity a deeper, more symbolic backstory, a myth from Superman's lost home, a story of hope born from darkness. As Superman finished the story, something clicked for Dick Grayson. This wasn't just some piece of alien trivia. It was his story. The parallels were impossible to ignore. He, too, felt like an outcast, pushed away by the man who raised him. He'd spent his life operating in the shadows of Gotham, using darkness as a weapon for good. The idea of proving his worth and becoming something more than what his family expected resonated deep in his soul. The Kryptonian hero was cast out, but became a symbol of hope. Dick was leaving the shadow of the Bat, not to forget what he learned, but to prove he could be a symbol on his own terms. The legend of Nightwing gave him the final piece he was looking for. It was a name with a heroic legacy, but totally separate from Batman's. It was a gift from Superman, connecting him to the world's greatest symbol of hope while still honoring his own history as a creature of the night. The name Nightwing was perfect. It paid tribute to both of his mentors, Batman, who taught him how to fight in the dark, and Superman, who gave him the name and reminded him what he was fighting for. It was also a nod to his own past with the Flying Graysons, the acrobat who flew through the air. The name carried flight, freedom, and the feeling of a bird finally leaving the nest. This wasn't just a new costume. It was the birth of a legend. With a new fire lit inside him, Dick Grayson embraced his identity. He made his official debut in the famous Judas Contract storyline in Tales of the Teen Titans number 44. With the Titans captured by Deathstroke, Dick returns not as Robin, but as Nightwing. It's a dramatic entrance, a clear statement that the boy wonder was gone. In his place stood a new, more confident hero. This new identity was an evolution. It let him step out of Batman's shadow and be seen as his own man. As Nightwing, he was the leader of the Titans, a hero on the same level as anyone in the Justice League. The mantle gave him the freedom to define his own rules and his own mission, eventually claiming the city of Bloodhaven as his territory to protect. And the name's legacy continued to ripple through Kryptonian lore. In the new Krypton storyline, Chris Kent, the adopted son of Superman, became a new Nightwing. This version, along with a new Flamebird, was revealed to be a true avatar of those ancient Kryptonian gods, with powers like shadow manipulation. It just goes to show that Nightwing is more than a name-it, it's a symbol of hope that thrives in the dark. The journey of a name from a Kryptonian myth to one of Earth's greatest heroes is pretty incredible. Nightwing is all about growth, independence, and the courage to build your own legacy. So what do you think of his origin? Do you prefer the classic Kandor story or the epic Kryptonian legend? Let us know in the comments.